Who are you?
Whoever you want me to be.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
It's feeling epic.
3 words. 8 letters.
I remember everything.
Pogues and Kooks, welcome back to Previously on Teen TV. I'm Jillian Banani.
And I'm Claire Wojciechowski.
We are back in the OBX, baby, deep diving season 4, part 1 of Outer Banks. What a ride it has been. Also, I just gotta say, it's fitting that I'm currently at the beach in North Carolina in my own little Poguelandia.
Yeah, I mean, you are in the place where it happens. You are close to ground zero of all the drama. And I'm sad that we can't do this in person together, but, it's nice to have, boots on the ground.
Well, I mean, we had to get on Zoom as quickly as possible because what a start to the season. I mean, we are off to a crazy start so far. I am loving this season. We're going to talk more about it, deep dive all of it. Claire, give us a little recap of what's happened so far.
Okay, so we pick up season 4, part 1, with flashbacks from the 18-month time jump showing us how the Pogues got home from South America. They used their gold to buy back JJ's property. They opened this bait and surf shop on the property. That's how they're going to live their lives, make their money. JJ drives up the price of the property at the auction, so they spend most of their money on the house. And then he spends the last remaining money betting on himself to win the Enduro, which is a motorbike race. Unfortunately, he loses that race to Topper. And so the Pogues now owe $13,000 in property taxes. They've got 7 days to pay the money or they lose the property. So we know the stakes. They're stated so clearly for us. We then, at this point in time, we're caught up to where we left off in season 3, which is when the mysterious man shows up and is like, Blackbeard, blah, 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 blah. He tells them that he needs them to find Blackbeard's treasure because it will break a curse that's been placed on his family. And he's offering them $50,000 to do it in 7 days, which is, the same timeline as what they need for the property taxes. Meanwhile, there's this group of baddies who are also looking for the treasure. They're dangerous and scary. And Rafe is trying to turn over a new leaf with his girlfriend, Sophia. This older lady, this cougar named Hollis, comes in. She wants Rafe to sign on a real estate deal with her. He's unsure, but then she pays Sophia to talk Rafe into it. Sophia has some second thoughts, but oops, it's too late. And so we leave off on a cliffhanger revelation about JJ while Pope and Sarah's lives hang in the balance as they're searching for the treasure. How'd I do?
I mean, that was great. That was a really good synopsis. I feel like we got to time you next time, in a good way. I feel like you felt like you were under a clock or something.
I do. I'm trying to keep it moving, keep it concise and efficient, but there's a lot to unpack. Even for just 5 episodes, a lot happened.
I know. I had to remind myself that this wasn't a whole season, but they packed a lot into the first 5 episodes. I mean, I feel like we are back. I was loving these first 5 episodes of season 4.
Yeah, it kind of brought me back to the vibe, the feeling of season 1, where it's it's a clean slate, it's a fresh start, it's summer, there's not these constraints of school and parents and this and that. They're just out, trying to live their lives, have fun, make some money. And also they're all together. They're all hanging out. They're in the OBX. It's really bringing it back in a good way.
I think that's the main reason why I'm loving this season so far already is everyone is together. We don't have half the group off in another country. We're all there. We're working together. That group dynamic is there. We're laughing, we're having fun, we're getting a lot of scenes of just a group hanging out together. And I think we've talked about this a lot, but one of our favorite things of this show is when we have all the Pogues together. This season, we're getting that. We're back in the Outer Banks. Just love when we see the water of the OBX again. I mean, it's John B is bringing it on home.
I mean, that's what we love about it. We love him in the bandana, in the t-shirt, just in his element, on the marshes and the trees and these kind of crappy little boats and the people, driving through the inlands. It's what we loved about the show originally. And I think that bringing it back to its roots almost is it's really sort of nostalgic in a way. And we get so many references to moments in season 1 throughout this first half of season 4. from like the opening of this premiere episode where he's standing on the roof with the can of beer. Like, it's like, oh, like it sort of lets you know, like, this is what you're in for. Like, don't worry, it's like original recipe.
I love that. And we get much less running this season than we've gotten in season 2 and season 3. I feel like we're not running every second. There's less gunfire, which I'm enjoying. But I feel like we still do have that action and treasure hunting that we love of Outer Banks, and that makes the show what it is. But I just think it's more well balanced this season, which I'm really liking.
Yeah, I think they're a little older and a little wiser, not a whole lot, but like they've been in these situations before, and so they're looking out for this type of danger. They're like thinking about, oh, who might be around the corner. Like they know that they see this mysterious guy and they're like, we got to keep an eye out for him because he's probably looking for us. So I think just that leads to them being caught. There's less like running in stupid situations that they're caught up in. They're like, they're calmer and they're like thinking about these things before just reacting.
Yeah, a lot less yelling, come on, we gotta go, which I like. I'm also loving the dynamics this season already. Like, I feel like we're like switching things up a little bit. We're getting like Sarah and Pope in scenes together. We're getting a lot of like Cleo and Sarah. We're getting all the couples and ships together as well. But I feel like the dynamics have been really fun so far.
Yeah, I think, we get the John B and JJ friendship, which is like a core element of the show, I think. And we see that a lot, especially in the first episode. But it is kind of nice to see like Cleo being more integrated into the group. I felt like in season 3, she was kind of just like still getting used to her being around all the time. And now she's like, it's been 18 months. They've been like living and working together. She's part of the Pogue family. And I think the fact that they're all living together in a house, that they're on their own, sort of lends to that dynamic sort of shifting and forming, and they all have to find new relationships with each other too.
Okay, so I feel bad. In our last episode, I was saying I think somebody's gonna die. And I was like, we could lose Cleo. And now I feel so bad that I said that. I'm like, I love Cleo. I don't want to lose her.
I mean, we almost did lose her. And it was like, no, like she's so crucial to this dynamic. Like, not only is she with Pope, but like she's like part of the team. She's making those spicy sandwiches, and also I think Cleo has real world experience that none of them have. Like she's been through some shit. And so she's always the one to be like, come on, like, let's get serious. Like just like stop playing around. Like, let's do this, which I think they all need.
Like John B wishes he was like Cleo. Like, I think John B thinks like his upbringing is what was like Cleo. And it's like, no, sweetie, you were going to school. You had a family. Like Cleo was really living the Pogue life.
She truly was. She was more Pogue than they were. And they didn't even know it. And now, especially, she's really like, man, if she wasn't part of that group before, she's lost stuff the way that the rest of them have and more. And so I think like, yeah, I'm Team Cleo this season. I'm like rooting for her and for her to have something good,
I know. I am also Team JJ this season, as I am every season. But I'm just so happy that he is at the center of this season. Like, I am loving that we're getting more of him. I feel like he is the star of the season, and a lot of it is about him, which I am loving so far.
I know. I mean, I think that was hinted at, and we've been Team JJ forever over here, and to see him get this like really like meaty, like he's had little dramatic moments here and there, but most of the time he's just kind of like the screw up or like the comic relief or whatever. It's just to see him get thrown this huge curveball, and I'm just like, I'm really intrigued as to how that's going to play out in the second half of season 4.
We're definitely going to talk about that more in a little. And also, just a warning, we will be talking all about what happens in season 4, part 1. If you have not watched, don't listen further. Or come back and listen after you watch.
Put it on pause and then come back when you've binged season 4, part 1.
Well, we made some predictions on our last episode, our Outer Banks season 4 predictions app. We made a lot of, predictions, thoughts, what we thought might happen or what we wanted to happen. And we got to see if some of those came true. And I gotta say, I'm proud of us. We did better than what I thought.
We did pretty well. As I was watching, I was like, oh, look at us. We called that. And I think like the trailer and the photos really helped us out there. But also like just knowing the show, knowing the world, we're like, oh, I can see what they're doing. So yeah, good for us.
Yeah. And we did that without even finding out the like newest trailer. We were going off a teaser. So I am very proud of us. I would say like one of the biggest things we predicted, we questioned, will they lose some money? And we were right. They did right off the bat in episode 1. Well, first off, we find out that they don't really get maybe as much money as what we had assumed if you find El Dorado, which we also questioned in our last episode. So they end up with a little over 1.1 million, which I'm sorry, I thought that they were going to end up initially with like, $20 million or something like that.
Yeah, I think they had to leave most of that gold behind in the cave, unfortunately. So they weren't able to walk away with as much as they wanted. But I guess to these Pogues, like it is a huge amount of money for most people. But I think, given the plans that they have, it doesn't go very far. I mean, the reason it doesn't go very far is we also speculated that JJ was going to lose his money quickly. And sure enough, JJ is sort of the reason why the money goes as fast as it does. He drives up the price of the house at auction, and then he spends the rest of it on the race. So JJ's not looking too great in eps 1 and 2, unfortunately.
I know, but I still love him.
Well, yeah, of course you do. We know, because we know why. He's just like, he's excited. He wants to support his friends, his family. So like, it comes from a good place, even though you want to shake him. But either way, we were right about that.
Good for us. I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
It also would have been a lot harder to lose $20 million. So that had to be part of the story.
Yeah. If they're treasure hunting again, we knew that they did not get as much money as we thought, and JJ lost a lot of it. So again, claps for us.
So speaking of that, we were sort of speculating that John B had that itch to go treasure hunting again. We were thinking like, oh, maybe they don't need the money, but he's feeling that sort of pull the way that Big John was. And I was wrong. They addressed this. They're like, John B wants to go after the money because they need to, but he sort of has hesitations, and Sarah and JJ just say to him, you're not your dad. Like they see that and they like, no, like he's not going to be like Big John. And there's a moment, later on too, where John B has a choice to make and he chooses to take a different path than his father did. So I think that was a nice it didn't work out the way that we predicted, but it was nice to see that they considered that.
I actually really love that moment where he kind of remembers his dad killing people to get to the treasure, and he doesn't want to be like that. And I love that, because I love that we just didn't forget that all that happened. I was happy that, we were reflecting on that, because it's easy to just kind of move on of like, we found the gold, we're moving on to a different storyline. But I was happy that they circled back on that, because I felt like that was a really big moment in the series. And I'm glad we're seeing John B a little messed up from his dad, because that was a messed up situation. So I'm glad we didn't just throw that away.
Yeah, he watched his father murder 2 men in cold blood. I think that that's something that would stay with you. And so when he has the sort of opportunity to do the same to this guy who's been terrorizing him and his friends, he chooses not to, because he's not, going to take that path. And so I agree. I'm glad that they sort of showed us that flashback that he was thinking about that in that moment.
We also predicted that Topper and Rafe would be teaming up to beat the Pogues to the treasure, which that has not happened. And I feel like that's not how the storyline is headed. And I'm kind of happy. I like where we're headed with Topper and Rafe. I feel like we're leaning more into a softer side for both of them, mainly for Rafe, where he's trying to be a little bit of a bigger person, maybe potentially. We don't really know yet.
No, he definitely is. He says to Sophia, like, I have this business. I'm going to get my family back. Like, he wants to make amends with Sarah, seemingly. And he's trying to build a future with this Poe girl, and sort of says to her, I don't care like, that you're a Pogue. Like this deal is for us, for the two of us, for the future. So he's trying to be a better person. He apologizes, not really apologizes to Key, but he sort of says like, you did me wrong, but that's okay. Which like interesting thing to say, but he's trying, I think. And even Topper, when they're on the beach and that psycho girlfriend of his is like, let's run down the Pogues, he's like hesitant. He's like, stop, like, don't do it. Like, he gets in the car with her, but he's not happy about it, so.
But do we believe Rafe?
I think that Rafe has like genuinely wants to be different, but I think that at the end of the day, when he finds out about this betrayal, his like inner nature is going to get the best of him and he's going to lose his shit.
I know. I'm concerned about that too. And I'm also just, I keep having to say this to myself. Like, Drew Starkey is not Rafe.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
And I want Rafe to be a better person, but I'm like, does this character like deserve that? And you know what? Maybe yes.
Let us not forget he murdered the sheriff in season 1 in cold blood.
I know. I keep going back to that.
We can't forget it because like the Pogues haven't forgotten it. Like, he killed the sheriff in cold blood and let his dad take the fall and then tried to kill Sarah and seemingly feels bad about trying to kill Sarah, but not about killing the sheriff. So either way, like, I'm excited to see Rafe's journey and where it ends this season because I'm enjoying the softer side of Rafe, but I'm wary of how long it will last.
I am worried if he will flip it again and become the villain. It will be interesting because I feel like he's so one way or the other. He's hot and cold. There's no in between with him. But I think no matter what, I just love scenes with Rafe because I'm scared a little bit and I'm like terrified of him. But I'm like, oh, you look good. And I'm liking the softer side. So, it's just kind of like mixed emotions. But I kind of love when he's on screen because we just don't know what we're going to get.
I think we can agree on that. I think we can all agree to hate the character and root for him in spite of ourselves. We want more Rafe. We've asked for more Rafe and we're getting it, baby. So I can't be upset about that.
I do love his relationship with Pogue Sophia. I kind of love Sophia. I thought that would be just like a side relationship or something, but it is full center, has to do with his story. And I just love where this is headed. I think it's so interesting. And I really like her as a character too. And that scene where the Kooks are trying to run down the Pogues and Turtles on the beach. I thought Sophia's reaction to that was just so interesting. Of like, well, I'm a Pogue too. This is going so far. I'm uncomfortable. And I'm going to say that out loud. I want to get out of here. And I was like, you go, girl. So I'm really liking her this season and just that relationship, which I really didn't think was going to be a main point of this season. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I really enjoy her. And I think like we saw her in season 3. She was just like a random girl at the party that he hooks up with. But she has like a moment with him where she's like trying to say like, you can make your own choices. And she really like plays a small role in his sort of development at the end of season 3. So I'm glad that carried over. And that they stayed together and like built this relationship to the point where they're like, oh, has she moved in yet? Because they've been together so long. She spent so much time at his house. Like, it is really interesting to see that like Rafe has somebody in his life that he cares about outside of his family and like what that tension is, because like he's trying to impress somebody that like isn't blood related to him. And I think that's a different set of problems. And so it's, she's fun. She's feisty. And when she decided to, betray him, I was rooting for her. I got to be honest.
Okay, I was too. Because he said some awful things about her and Pogues. And I was happy for her to stand up for herself. Like, good for you, girl.
Right. And also, like, it wasn't that much money that she, like, had him wire transfer. I'm like, oh, that's a drop in the bucket for Rafe. Like, it's not like they're robbing him blind. It's, like, just taking some money. So, like, he spends a little money and you get twice that amount. Like, who cares? It's fine.
He also made the decision himself. So
yes.
It's not like she forced it. So you go, girl.
Yeah. Get the bag.
Yeah. That's always our motto over here on Previously on Teen TV.
We're rooting for the scammers.
Well, one thing that I was wrong about in our predictions, and I will say this, I really thought one of the couples was going to be broken up, and I was wrong. We have all of our couples together and happy. And you know what? I'm happy I was wrong with that because I'm enjoying everybody together, working together, everybody being good. I'm kind of happy that that's not like the drama of the season.
I mean, same. I think that like with all the upheaval that they've had, I'm glad that they stuck together. And I also think, one of those relationship breaks up and that sort of rocks the whole group dynamic. So I'm glad to see that they're all still going strong. We get some nice coupling moments from all three relationships. Who knows what's going to happen in part 2, but I am enjoying the development too of these relationships, that it seems like they're growing, they're evolving as well.
And it really doesn't feel like any of them are going to break up in part 2. Like, I feel like we're all going pretty strong.
You could see with all the JJ drama, we know he pushes people away when he's in crisis. So I could see him really having a spiral about his identity and everything. And just, I mean, he's already done it where he takes off and doesn't tell them like, why he's leaving. So I could see like he being like, what the fuck? I thought we were past this, and them having a tiff about it,
I could definitely see that too. He's just such a wild card. You just never know with him, which we love.
Too.
Okay. And then last, I just got to say it again, because we don't know on this prediction yet, but I was saying I think somebody will die. And TBD, we don't know yet, okay? It could still be true.
I don't know. Like, it could be, but it feels unlikely to me. I don't know.
I don't think a main Pogue will die, but I feel like somebody's going. Well, we lost Terrence.
We did lose Terrence. Rest in peace to Terrence. As soon as Terrence showed up again, I was like, oh no, this is not good. Like, why bring him back if not for, to kill him so quickly? But he died saving Cleo, and so that gave her character development. So that was helpful.
I really did like, though, that they brought back a character from another season. I like that they kind of brought that a little bit full circle and just had a callback to an earlier season, because there's so many characters that we get introduced to in this show that it was nice to bring somebody back.
Yeah, and it was a reminder of like the past adventures that they've been through, the history and like the danger they've escaped. So it was nice to see somebody that, we don't have to like learn a new person. It's this other person. Like, of course, it makes sense that he's mixed up with these people. Like, yeah, I was happy to see him for the brief minutes that he was on our screens.
Well, and let's talk a little bit more of some of these other characters that we met this season, who some seem a little villainy, some new villains we got. First up, we have Hollis. Is she a villain? I don't really know yet. I can't tell.
I mean, they're certainly like suggesting that she is. She's got some secrets. Yeah. She wants Rafe to invest in this Goat Island deal, but we don't really know what it is. We don't really know why. We do know that she grew up on the cut. So she is like Ward. She came from nothing and, made a name for herself. She's definitely up to something nefarious, but like super evil, I don't know. That remains to be seen.
I feel like I don't view her as a full villain because she seems kind of, spunky and like schemy, but in a fun cougar way and like new money way. So I love it. I think it's fun.
I love her so much. I love that she's going after Rafe and that he calls her a cougar. Like, it's known that she's a cougar and she's just like still doing it. Like, why not? Have fun, live on your boat, like your yacht, excuse me. And like, when she calls Sophia and is like, hey, like, I need you to do this. Sophia's like, I don't want to hurt him. And she's like, he'll be fine. Like, she's very much like, you got to look out for yourself. And like, this rich man is going to be just fine. Like, I was rooting for both of them in that moment.
You know why I like her? She gives me some Julie Cooper energy. And I like that.
Yes. Love that. I do love that. And Julie Cooper, an icon, a queen. Like, so I love this. I love Hollis. And she's fun. She's schemy and like the best kind of way.
I think we need to acknowledge that they named her Mrs. Robinson, literally. Like her last name is literally Robinson. I thought that was hilarious.
I did not catch that, so thank you for pointing that out.
I thought that was so funny too. I noticed that, Jesse, and I was like, wow, we are going right on the nose.
They do love to do that. Like, I think, with Renfield in season 2, it's like the character of a famous, like, servant. Like, it's a little spot on if you know the reference, and I appreciate that. It's winking. It's like, oh, we're doing this. We're doing this. We're all in on the joke.
And then we have some new villains this season, who in our notes we put in as Scary Man and British Lady.
Yeah, I gotta say, I watched this, obviously, this season closely. I don't recall hearing their names. Maybe it's because I didn't have captions on, and so I didn't know, like, their names didn't pop up for me. But I was like, do we know, like, who these people are? Like, we know that they've got the tattoos, and they're all part of this, I assume, the Lupine Corsairs. They're all hunting for the Blackbeard's treasure. But apparently the man's name is Lightner and the lady's name is Dahlia. So just so we can keep them straight. But yeah, they're scary. This Lightner man, he's like big and burly and like kind of strong, silent type. And I appreciate from him specifically that, last season we had Singh, who was like giving these speeches and talking about like, finding El Dorado and all of this stuff. And like Lightner's just like walks in and is like, I'm going to kill you. Like, doesn't mess around. It's just like, give me this or I'm going to shoot you. You have 10 minutes, like whatever. I appreciate that. I appreciate someone who gets down to business.
Yeah, he's definitely a man of few words. I feel like he's had very little lines, but right away we just know he's like the new villain of the season. But I gotta say, I'm a fan of Dahlia, the British lady. I love that we have, a female woman in charge of this group. She seems to be a badass. She's also scary. I feel like we don't know a lot about them yet, which is kind of fun. Like, what is their motivation? Where are they from? I'm excited for all that to come out.
Yeah, I think there's a reference when the two of them are talking, because for a while we just see him by himself. He's seemingly alone. And then he meets up with Dahlia on the pier. They're talking. And there's a reference to like their boss or some other person that they're like searching for. Like they have to go check in with somebody else. So, but we don't know who that is. Again, we don't know why they're after the Blue Crown, this treasure, like what they want it for. So there's a lot of questions still to be answered, which I'm excited to uncover.
Well, I feel like we haven't even met the main villain yet, like who their boss is. So that's exciting. Like that is what I want in this show. Like there to be multiple villains. There's a bigger like organization, more behind it. So I'm excited that we're doing that this season, because I think Singh was a little bit of a letdown last season as a villain.
A little cartoony, a little over the top. And also like, he let other people too short. Yes, short king, as we know. He also like let other people do his dirty work for him. And so I kind of like that Lightner's the one in there mixing it up. He's, I guess, is one of the people doing the dirty work, but we're getting to know him, getting a lot of FaceTime with him. So yeah, it's we got some proper villains this season, which is fun.
And we got to acknowledge Lightner's kind of hot.
Hot, very hot. He shows up at the bait shop and he's just like sort of silent and creepy, but also like kind of very hot. And you're like, I mean, like he could kill me, but would it be worth it?
But the British lady has him wrapped around her finger, which I'm loving. Keep giving your demands, girl.
I love it. I love a boss girl.
All right, so in true Outer Banks fashion, we have gotten a lot of dramatic moments this season so far. We're not even done with the season, and so much has already happened. What were some of your like standout dramatic moments of part 1 so far?
I mean, I think when Lightner, there's diving for this to the amulet, and Lightner is attacking JJ and Key underwater. Like they're scuba diving, they only have so much air, and we know that like they have to do like a stop before they come all the way up so they don't get the bends, and he's attacking them. He cuts Key's oxygen line so she can't breathe, and then tries to like lock them in this little wreckage or whatever. It's like really scary because like, and you can't really hear or see what's going on. You're just like, oh my God, like who's winning? So that was an exciting moment for me.
I was getting like claustrophobic during that moment. Like it was so intense and so like I was like, oh my God, she can't breathe. Like I'm freaking out. Can I breathe? That was a scary moment for sure. Everything was going too good at first. And then Lightner comes in and it was just like 0 to 100.
Yeah, it made me not ever want to go scuba diving, just in case some bad man tries to kill me by cutting my oxygen line. So I think I'm going to stay above water in the future.
Okay, I thought that too. I was like, all right, we're done with scuba diving. I don't want to end up in the hyperbaric chamber.
No. Oh my God. What a plot device, though. Honestly, like I kind of loved that. I was like, oh, this is so ridiculous. Like it's real, but it's also ridiculous. But like, love that like they just throw JJ and Key in there together, like in their like wet clothes, and they're just like having to like have this bond moment where they decide to make out. Excellent television.
I loved it. I thought it was so good. I was obsessed with it.
I think they did more than make out in there. That at least was insinuated.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I see that motion that you're doing with your hands. And I mean, listen, you got hours to spend. Like, why not? I was more concerned if they have the energy for that. But, who knows?
I wanted a full makeout scene. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, maybe there's still time.
There's always part 2.
Fingers crossed. What about you? What was an exciting moment that had you on the edge of your seat?
Okay, I was on the edge of my seat when Pope was racing to save Cleo from Lightner, who was basically ready to kill her. And he seemed serious about it, like he was actually going to do it. He gave Pope only like, I think it was around like a half hour to get there, to give him the amulet. And, of course, in true Pogue fashion, he's crashing his bike. He's running out of gas with his bike. I mean, this was just classic Pogue life or death scenario.
When he realizes that like the fuel line has like or something has been cut like on the bike, and he's hanging onto the ladder with that's hanging off the back of the truck, I was like, this is some like crazy action movie shit that I haven't seen in a long time. But I'm like, I love it. I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, and I just really love that those two characters are getting a lot of screen time this season, because I feel like in the last season they really didn't. And I think they're doing a good job this season of balancing every character and giving everybody a moment to shine. And I really liked that moment for them. You could feel the adrenaline. It was intense. They were at the center of it. And boy, was it dramatic. It was just classic Outer Banks moment.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that relationship felt rushed to me at the end of season 3, but it's nice to see how it's built and how they've really established like a strong connection, as strong as the other two relationships, I would say. So when he's like racing to save her, it's not just a Pogue saving another Pogue. It's like saving his girlfriend and his like partner. And that emotion was really there. So I did like that.
And then we got to talk about the most dramatic moment of part 1, the big reveal, the JJ mom reveal. I mean, jaw drop.
So I knew there was going to be something with the mom, because like the way that they talk about, Larissa, she died with her unborn child and mysteriously drowned. I was like, that's suspicious. Like that kid's out there. You know what I mean? Like, why would you mention the kid if like the kid wasn't involved? Like, so, but I didn't think JJ. And then when he gets the letter from Jen Rett, I was like, oh, I see what this is. Like that was quite the revelation.
When I saw that portrait of Larissa and saw that she was blonde, I thought, JJ was that baby. This is JJ's mom. But I didn't think that the show was actually going to do that. Because like we've talked about this before, Outer Banks doesn't always go there. They don't do these more soapy moments. So I thought, I'm just being dramatic and this won't actually happen. And then when it did, I could not believe it. I was like, oh, we're going there.
I loved it. I mean, I love a soapy moment. I love like a secret love child. And so when it became clear that this was what we were building to, I was thrilled. I also think like it gives us context like to unpack about like, oh, he had this like mom that left and his dad that didn't care for him. So like, that's partially why, like, they're not his biological parents. Not that they shouldn't have loved him anyway, but you know what I mean. Like, it's like it upends his whole identity because I saw an interview where the creator was like, he's the pogiest pogue of them all. Like, he is so much like working class from the cut, like doesn't need all this help from rich people. And the fact that he is actually like owns an island and is super
He's
wealthy.
a kook.
He's a kook. He's a full kook. He's like kookiest kook maybe. And so like that is just gonna throw him for a loop. And he's gonna spiral through the second half of season 4. And I am living for it.
I feel like this is all that we've wanted. We just wanted to hear more about one, a mom, and two, JJ's backstory. And I just feel like we are getting everything we wanted, and I truly could not be happier.
I'm so excited. I think this is so fun. It adds all these wrinkles because we had for seasons 1 and 2, Pope is connected to Denmark Tanny, and so he felt like a personal need to find that treasure. And so now, like, this is JJ's family legacy. Like, it's not just about the money. It's about like, this is his history. This is about like learning more about his heritage and where he comes from. So like, this is connected to his backstory as much as it is the treasure. It's both of those things intertwined. And I'm really pumped about it.
I saw online that a lot of people were not happy about this JJ reveal, and they felt like they were just doing what they did in season 2 with Pope again. But I could not disagree more. I love it. I love when we make these connections. I think it makes the show more fun. I can't wait to see where we're going to go with this. There's so many questions that we still have. And I am very excited about it. So if you did not like this ending, tell us why, because I love it so much.
I'm a big fan of it. I agree. And I think like I get sometimes where, oh, it's so convenient that like one of the Pogues is connected to like the treasure that they're searching for, like has a personal connection. But also like that's the name of the game with this show. Like that's how they create the dramatic tension and up those stakes, is they make it so that one of them is personally invested. And so like you kind of just have to assume that that's going to happen going in, because like that's what you sign up for.
Well, let's talk about the ending in general, because there were other cliffhangers that we got at the end of part 1. We have Sarah and Pope are trapped in the catacombs and the water is coming in quickly. Yikes.
Yeah, the Ratacombs, as I think I've heard the cast call them.
I couldn't with those rats. I immediately was like, I can't believe they had to film with all these rats. Like, I would have quit. I mean, that is my true nightmare.
Well, I think too, like living in New York City, like you see rats a lot. And you think of they're so dirty and they're so filthy. And so like, just like thinking about like the rats I see on the subway and they're crawling after you, like swarms of rats. Like, oh, I would not, I couldn't do it. I'd be like, get a stunt double. I'm sorry. Like, I cannot.
Yeah. That was another big dramatic moment of this season. I mean, we know they're going to get out, but
right.
It will be interesting to see how they get out.
Right, because they're sealed in from both sides, right? Like the tomb thing on the outside is sealed by the amulet. The door, they accidentally close the door behind them, which I was like, don't do that. Like, as soon as they're like, shut the door to get away from the rats, I was like, don't do that. Like, you don't know if that door opens. I feel confident that they'll be saved because John B. and Cleo are outside, you know, waiting for them. But still very dramatic and a fun pairing that we don't really see ever, Pope and Sarah. So I was happy that they got to, like, explore their dynamic a little bit.
And I would say the two most smartest of the Pogues. Like, they should be going off on missions all the time together.
Yeah, I mean, literally, they're on the mission. He figures out the Half Moon Battery thing. She figures out the North Star thing. She was crushing it last season. So I think the two of them need to put their heads together more often because they are clearly the brains behind the operation.
Yeah, they're getting shit. And then we have a reveal at the end as well that Hollis and Chandler, aka JJ's real life daddy, are in cahoots. So that was a big reveal at the end as well.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're after Goat Island. You know, Hollis is trying to purchase it outright. Chandler was living there with his father-in-law, JJ's grandfather, which of course begs the question, is Chandler the one who killed his father-in-law in order to get Goat Island? And also, did Chandler kill Larissa back in the day? Did she give up the baby to save him from her crazy husband? That was a thought that crossed my mind.
Chandler seems to be evil. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
know yet, but I'm getting some bad vibes from that guy. And as we've learned, there's not a good dad on this show. So I don't think Chandler is going to suddenly be a good dad. He's going to be a bad dad like the rest of them.
Yeah, even when we get a new mom and dad, it's still a dead mom and a bad dad. So, you win some, you lose some, JJ. I don't know what to tell you. But, I mean, are they dating? Are they sleeping together? Or are they just like financial partners? Like, I'm intrigued and I want to know more.
I know, that's a good question. If they're sleeping together, I didn't think about that. They did seem a little cozy-cozy.
I had that thought. I mean, and I feel like, they're both single. Like, why not? Like, his dead wife's been dead for how old is JJ? 19? So I'm sure he's like keeping busy somehow.
Well, that's one of my questions, though. Is Larissa really dead? Do we think she's alive, possibly?
I mean, I like to say, if no body, no crime, I mean, not just me, but if you don't see that body, they're not dead, as we've learned with Big John and Ward. So yeah, I think it's certainly possible that, again, she was in a bad situation. She faked her own death, handed off that baby, and, I think it's quite possible. Maybe she swoops in at the end and saves JJ from his evil father.
Well, I think Shoop is involved in that past story somehow, because he mentioned knowing Larissa, and he said this very fondly. So I feel like he is somehow involved in whatever happened in the past with Larissa and Chandler and JJ as a baby.
I think so too, and I would love for Shoop to be more involved in the mysteries of this all, because we've seen him be like a good cop, and he's onto them. JJ's like, oh, I totally threw him off the scent, and Shoop's like, no, like, keep an eye on these kids, they're up to something. So I think having him be involved personally in this story would be fun. And also, I love Cullen Moss. We saw him at the One Tree Hill weekend, and I was like, oh, Sheriff Shoop. So, like, would love for him to get to do more on this show, too.
I was like, oh, Cullen Moss seemed really excited about season 4 of OBX. I wonder if he is in this backstory or something. But yeah, I would love for him to be more involved. Like, let's get him in there. And I just feel like it wasn't a throwaway line. So I hope that this is just a bigger storyline and brings in more people on the show, because it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think for sure he's going to be involved. He's going to have some information that is going to be useful to JJ, to the Pogues. So I'm excited to see where that leads us in part 2.
I know. I just can't wait for part 2. I have so many questions. I'm so excited to learn more about everything.
I mean, I think the biggest question for part 2 is, will the curse get JJ?
That's what I'm worried about.
I mean, hopefully they got to get that amulet back from Leitner and Dahlia and whoever their mysterious boss is. But like, we were concerned that JJ was going to be the one to die, and I think with this revelation that seems highly unlikely. But I'm worried for his well-being. We gotta break this curse.
I don't think JJ will die, but I think he's getting that curse, because that would be a good storyline.
What does that entail, though? Oh, well, I guess we'll find out.
I don't know. Well, he sees like the ghost or something.
I'm excited that we're getting into like curses and like ghostliness in this season. I think like last season had that like Indiana Jones vibe, and like this one's a little more like spooky, scary, just in time for Halloween. So I'm a fan.
I had the same thought. I was like, oh, it's kind of nice that this came out around Halloween time, because they are really giving the spooky vibes this season, which I am here for. It's a little different than what we've gotten in the past.
Yeah, I think that one thing that's fun about the show is that like it's always the action adventure. It's always like a treasure hunt, but like the tone is a little different each season. That's like slightly we're over here in this kind of genre, and then we're dabbling in this genre. And so it's fun to just keep sort of mixing it up and seeing where each season's going to take us.
Well, and I'm ready to see where part 2 takes us, because I am loving this season so much. I'm ready for more. I can't wait till November. That's crazy.
I know. We've got like 3 weeks. So I'll be rewatching part 1 of season 4 again, because like I can't get enough. I had so much fun with it. In the meantime, yeah, I'm really, really pumped to see where they end up. We know that they go to Morocco. We've seen photos of that, which seems to be tied to the Arabic inscription on the amulet. So, I mean, they just think they can't stay in the OBX for too long. You know, they got to go international.
Well, I was laughing when they ended up in Charleston again. I'm like, here we go. We can't just stay in the OBX for 1 second.
No. I know, we love it. And the travel is fun, but like, you know, I love a hometown story. But, you know, most of it's in the OBX, which I appreciate.
At least we're getting full Poguelandia, which was very fun in the first episode. I was loving that.
Yeah. I loved seeing them build the dock and, you know, figure out like cleaning the house and who's sleeping in what room and all of that. So that's, it was a fun part of the show.
All right, should we do some as-ifs?
Let's do it. So this is the part of the show where each of us rants about something for 15 seconds and we have to say as if, like Sharon Clueless at the end of it. So Jillian, do you want to go first or shall I?
You know I'm not ready yet, so you need to go first.
Okay. All right. Producer Jesse, let me know when we are ready to go.
Claire's up in 3, 2, 1, go.
JJ breaking out of a hyperbaric chamber as if. I'm pretty sure that those things are a little bit more sealed because they would need to protect the people inside from the elements and the people outside from the elements that are inside. So the fact that he was able to kick his way through the window and bust him and Key out of there doesn't sit right with me.
I was like, I feel like that would be a little more secure, but if anybody could do it, JJ could do it.
I mean, I guess it's that adrenaline. He's trying to save his own life and Key's life from Leitner. But also, like, you're locked in. He can't get to you either. So, like, maybe just, like, wait and then sneak out. I don't know. Whatever. They weren't thinking clearly, and that's okay. We love the initiative.
They're never thinking clearly.
True.
All right. You ready, Jill, for your as if?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, go.
The Pogues only getting $1.172549 million for finding El Dorado as if. I think if you found this hidden island cave of treasure, you would get more money or at least a reality show out of it. Get the Pogues on the Discovery Channel.
Yeah. I mean, well, they were so excited when they were in the local newspaper a year and a half later. I was like, okay, like aim higher, babe. At least like get a TV crew out.
I was like, they at least deserve the New York Times.
Seriously, like it's an international treasure. It's like a famed city of gold. Like you would think that like many people would want to be talking to them, giving interviews, etc. Like, what?
Well, hopefully we'll get that after they find the blue crown.
Yes, this famous blue crown. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, the New York Times better be showing up for that. I'm going to write them. Well, I think we did it. We have talked all about Season 4, Part 1 of Outer Banks. We are so excited to come back in a couple weeks and talk all about Part 2. I can't wait. I love where this season is headed. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, if you are like us and are going to be rewatching Outer Banks in preparation for Part 2, go back and listen to all of our podcasts about Seasons 1, 2, 3, our predictions for Season 4, see if they match up with what we've talked about in this episode. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, and while you're there, please remember to rate and review us, subscribe, give us 5 stars. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at previously on _Team TV.
Thanks for listening.